The Swedish underworld is hot on his trail, like bloodhounds on a scent. He's at the top of the hit list of a notorious splinter group within his own gang, and there's a staggering bounty of $1 million on his head. The stakes are life and death. The game is deadly, and the world watches in suspense as the curtain slowly rises on this gripping drama. We were just as shocked as you are right now. It seems like a matter of days before he's found and vanishes forever from the face of the earth. But he hatches a brilliant conspiracy. With a touch of cunning and a strategic master stroke, he only evades his impending death but seizes the $1 million reward with both hands. Welcome to Narcotic Underworld, where we bring you rigorously investigated secrets about the dark, shadowy underworld. This time, brace yourself for the riveting tale of a man who orchestrated a master stroke against his opponent, weaving a tapestry of ingenious planning and delivering a performance that could easily win him an Oscar. It's the story of a Swedish most wanted gang lord's right-hand man, a foxtrot lieutenant. Mustafa Aljiburi, also known as Benzema, is a 34-year-old Swedish national. He was born in the northern part of Stockholm. He holds both Swedish and Iraqi nationalities. In the past, he has been convicted of various smuggling offenses and served prison time. In 2016, he was sentenced to a 2-year prison term for drug-related crimes. He remains a person of interest to the Swedish police, with his name appearing twice in the preliminary investigation report. Mustafa remains well known to the Swedish police, as his name appears twice in the preliminary investigation record. He has been convicted of various smuggling offenses and sentenced to prison. Benzema was wanted by the Correctional Service to serve a 2-year prison sentence for drug offenses. He was sentenced in 2016. Mustafa, with his dual nationality, always had an escape route in Iraq. Entangled in a web of pursuits not only by the Turkish and Swedish authorities, but also by his own criminal rivals, he found refuge in the shadows of Iraq. But what was the driving force behind his continuous unrest? The answer lies in his crucial role within the notorious Foxtrot gang, a name that has become synonymous with drugs and weapons. The Foxtrot gang, notorious for its tight organization, functioned like a well-oiled machine. It was a pyramid-like hierarchy with the leaders, including Rawa Majid, alias the Kurdish Fox, at the top. The gang offered opportunities for upward mobility, allowing those in lower echelons to dream of power and influence. The connections of the gang extended to the Zero Network, the Bro Network, and the May Network in Stockholm, building a seemingly impregnable empire. But when the Swedish police found their trail, a storm broke out. The members scattered like shadows, searching for new hideouts in various countries. Rawa Majid, the linchpin of it all, had a reputation that preceded him. A 37-year-old thug, Majid had brushes with the local authorities many times. He was incarcerated multiple times. He fled to Turkey in 2018 and remained there for several years. He had even acquired Turkish citizenship and had been living lavishly in the country. Meanwhile, he came up on the radar of Swedish authorities again. In 2022, Kurdish Fox was detained in absentia on probable cause as a suspect for serious drug crime and smuggling. If he were convicted of the crimes he suspected of committing, he could end up imprisoned for up to 10 years. Nevertheless, Fox enjoyed immense loyalty from the gang members. They wore rings with diamonds and fox symbols to show their loyalty to Majid. As the founder and the leader of the gang, he was the architect of their success and their source of their fear. But within the seemingly well-oiled machine, tensions were brewing. Rivalry and betrayal were never far away in the world of the Foxtrot gang, where every shadow could hide a threat and every alliance could be temporary. Before we unravel the astonishing escape of Mustafa, let's delve into the explosive feud that not only shook the streets of Sweden, but also reverberated across the landscapes of Tunisia and Turkey. Dismantling of alliances that transform into conflicts is a sine qua non of the underworld. Brothers can become mortal enemies in a matter of seconds, especially when it involves money or coke. That's what happened between Majid and his close aide, Ismail Abdu, also known as Strawberry. Majid was playing a double game, a dangerous game indeed. He was conning his own couriers to juice up the profits. Ismail fell victim to this deceit and lost his shipments to Majid. Determined to get back at his former boss, Abdu commanded his own splinter group that clashed with their old group feverishly. A notorious figure, he had numerous run-ins with Swedish law and order. Abdu faced convictions for serious drug offenses and possessions of weapons, painting a vivid picture of his turbulent criminal history. Just like his former boss, he had also acquainted himself with the cold bars of incarceration, serving 5.5 years in 2016. He also faced detention in absentia for his alleged involvement in narcotic smuggling, a charge revolving around a staggering 100 kilos of amphetamine. Ever since the discord between the two ruthless hoodlums erupted, the streets of Sweden rock with shootings, explosions, and arson. It wasn't confined to the gang members anymore. The family members of those playing the underworld were dragged in too, especially after the arch-rival kingpins Ismail and Majid fled the country to Bolt in Turkey, taking along the feud and a trail of violence across the borders. While the feud was between the Swede hoodlums, the tremors were felt by the innocent civilians, leaving many dead and injured as the war raged. The year 2022 saw 391 shootings in Sweden, and 2023 is no different. The crosshairs had widened, and everyone became fair game. Eventually, Abdu's mother was taken out, which was the last straw for the law and order in Sweden. This was the response to a shooting meant for Rawa Majid on September 6, 2023 in Turkey. Two men opened fire into a local cafe in the Turkish district of Sarıyer. The situation escalated further when a group of 6 retaliated with more gunshots. While everyone scrambled for cover, the assailants disappeared, having been on a motorbike. The assailed group, including 5 men and a woman, rushed out on a minibus. They were arrested by the Turkish authorities later, and 5 of them turned out to be Swedes. This was an attempt on Majid's life, an answer to which was given by the murder of Abdu's mother. Now, there was no stopping war. 2 days following the tragic murder of Abdu's mother on September 9th, a gunshot pierced through an apartment door. However, it turned out to be another unsuccessful attempt. The intended victim was Fox's mother-in-law, whose murder was sought as retribution for the earlier murder of Abdu's mother. Despite her absence at the time, she insisted that she was the intended target of the gunshot. According to her account, a knock at the door preceded the shot. With no response, the bullet ended up penetrating the neighboring house, sparing the woman who had been the objective. Things had taken an ugly turn where there was no culmination. Only in the 10-day period of mid-September, there were 7 fatal shooting incidents, whereas beyond the Swedish borders, Rawa Majid decided to resonate with his Kurdish roots and decided to bolt in Iraqi Kurdistan. He had links with the local authorities there and thus moved about quite conveniently. He used to make quick and short visits to Iran as well, but finally, the long arm of the law reached him. Reportedly, he was arrested in Iran on October 5, 2023. The Iranian personnel arrested him in the border area between the cities of Qaladiza and eastern Iraqi Kurdistan and Bene in Iran. He was captured in his safe haven. Coming back to Mustafa, the protagonist of our story. According to the Swedish police, Mustafa remains an important organizer for extensive narcotic trafficking operations in Sweden for the Foxtrot gang. After Majid's falling out with Ismail, he became Fox's comrade and confidant. Where does this feud place Mustafa Aljiburi? Right on Ismail Abdu's hit list. As the conflict raged on, the gang's loyalties began to shift to Rawa's allies pledging allegiance to Ismail. However, Mustafa wasn't one of them. He stuck with Majid as the pair went way back. This is the picture of the pair back in 2015 in front of an IKEA in Uppsala. This loyalty came with a huge price tag, which was Mustafa's life. He became Abdu's target, i.e., number 2 to be eliminated. 2 terrifying attempts on Mustafa's life were undertaken before the third, final one. The first of them was on September 25, 2023, a few minutes past 9 o'clock in the evening. An apartment building in Hässelby shook with an explosion. The explosion was hidden in the stairwell of the building. It was so powerful that the CCTV camera captured its sound. It was intended to cause serious harm. Not only that, the explosion damaged the building's front door, but also blew away the back door. It was likely to be meant for Mustafa, as the building was the residence of a woman very close to Mustafa and was his registered address, only former. So, Mustafa was saved, but his attackers were resolved. The crime scene at Hässelby wasn't even cleared up when another apartment building shook up with an explosion, this time in Linköping. It happened 9 hours after the Hässelby explosion and was so vicious that it blew off the entire front of the building. This time again, the bomb was placed in the building's stairwell. You can see the damage to the building caused by the explosion in this picture. The building's residents were evacuated right away and brought to a gymnasium for security. According to the bomb squad that arrived on the scene, the building was so damaged that certain parts could collapse completely. Luckily, despite the magnitude of the explosion, only 2 women bore minor injuries. This apartment building was the address of a family member of Mustafa. However, Linköping police officer Ann-Christine Renström could not confirm that the attack was related to the Foxtrot gang feud. We can only determine that there is an ongoing national as well as international conflict. It's no longer limited to the big cities, but the smaller cities of Sweden are affected as well, she said. While the police couldn't link the 2 attacks directly with the Foxtrot feud, Mustafa's connection with both addresses was screaming evidence that someone was hell-bent on wiping him off the map for good. After the attack, an 18-year-old was arrested as a suspect. He was interrogated the next morning after spending a night in jail. He didn't specify the reason or the person on whose behalf he carried out the attack, but the streets of Sweden were aware of the culprits. And just like that, in mere 12 hours of that day, 3 innocent people bore the brunt of this feud, not to mention the terror that rippled through the streets. While the feud was between the bigwigs of the gangs, they remained safe and sound in their havens outside the Swedish borders. Most of the attacks carried out in September were aimed at the Foxtrot members in retaliation for the attack on Ismail's mother. The attack on one's mother is low even by gangland standards and served as a declaration of war by Ismail. Abdu was desperate for revenge as a hungry wolf on the prowl. The continuous failed attempts at retribution added to his consternation. He concocted another plan to take out Mustafa's head, for hitting Majid at that time when he was hiding in Iran was not an option. With Mustafa becoming the subject of his focus, Ismail allegedly put a price on his head and was on the lookout for people who could carry out the deed. The bounty on Mustafa's head was set at $1 million. For Ismail, it would be a matter of days before someone took out Benzema's head, given the staggering amount of reward. Little did he know that Mustafa was one step ahead of him. The word started spreading, although it wasn't a surprise to anyone. In gang feuds, the opposing side always remains a target and a potential victim of deadly vendettas. Nevertheless, the news started surfacing that either the rogue police or the hitters had successfully taken out Mustafa. It was so prevalent that even the Swedish Ministry of Foreign Affairs acknowledged hearing it. However, it couldn't verify whether it was true or not. A little while after the rumors started making rounds in the gangland grapevine, several videos and pictures of Mustafa emerged, where he was shown being apprehended and then having been shot while sitting in a car. People who were close to Benzema shared posts grieving their friend's loss. Then came a few videos depicting people lighting off fireworks as a celebration of Mustafa's killing. They were allegedly by Abdu's men, who thought he had done some serious damage to his former boss, Majid. He paid the $1 million bounty. And then came an incident that shocked the underworld immensely. Foxtrot affiliate and rapper 50 posted a message on his Instagram. It stated, "Hello folks, an important announcement to the public today at 8 o'clock. I will have an Instagram live you don't want to miss. I will bring with me a very special guest." Being a rapper, his audience expected the surprise to be related to new music or a music-related guest, but they couldn't be more wrong. Rapper 50's audience watched Mustafa joining Instagram with their jaws dropped. The man was alive and well. He revealed that the videos and pictures showing his demise were a part of the ruse where he staged his death. In the video, he can be seen boasting a golden Kalashnikov while his associates surround him, brandishing firearms. One of the men in the background is eating strawberries, making a snide reference to Ismail, as his nickname is Strawberry. You may be wondering what a rapper would have to do with a notorious gang member, but rapper 50 is no ordinary artist. He has been named in 3 preliminary investigation reports. In Sweden, the crossover of rap music and the underworld isn't a novel occurrence. Rapper 50 finally crossed paths with the law in Tunisia, where he was on October 24, 2023, with 4 other Swedish nationals having links to the Foxtrot network. Reportedly, the 5 Swedes were on their way to the coastal city of Hammet when their car was stopped, from which drugs were discovered. It led to a house search where cannabis, drug-classified tablets, and guns were retrieved. This picture shows 5 Swedish passports, 9 mobile phones, 5 maps, tablets, and a hash cake. In another picture, 5 men can be seen with their backs turned to the camera. Reportedly, many of these men were a part of Majid's innermost circle. Nevertheless, the rapper's Instagram Live garnered 20,000 people watching while Mustafa laughed and boasted. He said, "Hey brothers, have you heard it? Benzema passed for $1 million? You gave $1 million for a picture with Benzema in handcuffs. Benzema fooled you." He further threatened Abdu's family member, a cousin who was a prosecutor. Interestingly, she had worked on the Foxtrot network's cases. Benzema accused her of providing Abdu with information about his gang. This video actually led to her suspension from operational work. A supervisory case was initiated and the security department was involved. A statement from the supervisory department of the head of the public prosecutor's office stated, "We look at the data unconditionally according to established procedures and regulations to check whether any errors have been committed." The prosecutor said that she had already divulged her relationship with Ismail to her boss at the time of her hiring. However, she said that she never worked on the cases his name appeared on. She further iterated that she had distanced herself from her cousin many years ago. Coming back to Benzema's live video, he also addressed Ismail's remarks about him hiding. "How am I hiding? I am the man in my home country. Meanwhile, you have yet to take one of us out. All you hit are innocent people." An investigation into the revelations and threats made in this video was initiated as well. Later, a pre-recorded video clip was released on Instagram in which Mustafa depicted how he staged his death. In this video, he can be sitting in a car, soaked in what seems to be blood, and smiling. This must have been exasperating for Ismail, who had lost $1 million and was still nowhere closer to attaining revenge on his enemies. The worst part being that he paid his sworn enemy $1 million. But how did this happen? Mustafa was expecting a hit on his life. When Ismail started looking for people who could kill the Foxtrot thug, Mustafa's Iraqi contacts kept him updated on that plan. It led Mustafa to forge this cunning plan that would not only save his life, but also bring him the bounty on his own head. A poetic irony indeed. What's more, Ismail seemed to have covered all his bases. He paid the first installment after seeing Mustafa being captured, which was $500,000. Then he paid the remaining amount only after watching the video of Mustafa being dragged in the car, i.e., another $500,000. Mustafa flexed the money on Instagram and said that he would donate half of the amount to charity and spend half on using his soldiers to go after him, i.e. Ismail. That's how Mustafa rose like a spectator in a broadcast, releasing threats and refuting any claims about him hiding away. Mustafa remains outside Sweden and currently outside the law's reach for his gangland crimes. During this time, he has had a brush with the Swedish authorities for financial negligence as well. However, his financial negligence has caused him some trouble. He has been charged with a credit offense and penalized with a hefty sum of money. He has been ordered to pay 24,281 kroner. He must also pay SEK 10,000 in court costs and SEK 1,000 in interest. In 2020, Mustafa Aljiburi had ordered household goods from cdon.com without making the necessary payments. Since then, the unpaid debt had been mounting, resulting in debt collection claims and payment orders being issued against him. During the summer of 2022, Mustafa Aljiburi found himself sentenced by the Atunda District Court to settle a credit debt through bankruptcy. The creditor was not the same as the applicant, but the question lingers: how long can Mustafa elude the attempts on his life, especially after the alleged arrest of his boss in Iran and several other lieutenants in Tunisia? Would he get cornered or be able to roam about nonchalantly as he boasts? The international rift in the Foxtrot feud has added to the volatility of Swedish gangland and ultimately streets. The arrest of Rawa Majid will further destabilize the region and cause a struggle to fill in the power vacuum. What do you think would become of Mustafa Aljiburi? Would he finally be taken out by Abdu or the same fate as his boss Majid? Let us know in the comments. This wraps up the story of the man who faked his own death and later rose as a specter in a broadcast.